Welcome back to The Sweet Spot. This week's guest is Jennie Wright. She's a lead generation expert, and she is the founder of Many Bundles. And it was a really good conversation around various things, actually, not just lead generation, but some other things that surround it in terms of getting leads and some mindset stuff and some tactical things along the way. So I think you'll really enjoy this one. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Small Business Sweet Spot. I'm Barb Davids, and I'm here to help you get more website traffic and leads with simple, actionable SEO and content strategies. In each episode, I share tips and tactics and talk with other business owners who help us grow both in our business and in life. I'm so glad you're here. Let's go. All right. So, Jennie, thanks for spending some time with me today. And I've already gone through your bio, but I'm going to do something a little bit different and say, pretend like we're not Zooming right now. Pretend like we are at a coffee shop, and I would like to hear, like, maybe I'm just standing in the line with you. I'm like, oh, hey, what do you do?
Oh, hey, so good to meet you. Well, I'd probably say that, I'm a lead gen and list building expert that dabbles in ops and marketing strategy.
Oh, okay. And then I don't know what any of that is, let's say. So then go a step further from that.
Okay. I love that question. Actually, that actually happened to me. So what I would say to that is I help people figure out the process to get in front of their ideal client. And then I find the ideal client and bring it to you.
I like that a lot. Also, what are you ordering at the coffee shop? Oh, yeah, those are super good. I didn't even know what those were until maybe like a year ago. And those are like heaven.
They are, but I can't have it all the time. I was just away about a week and a half ago for a couple of days, and I had one from Starbucks, and I was like, okay, that is my one. And I probably won't have another one for like 4 or 6 months, but it's my favorite.
There you go. Oh, awesome. All right. So let's talk about lead gen and we talked a little bit about what we might touch on today before the call. And I found you through another podcast, but you also have your own podcast specifically for this, for lead generation. And you mentioned that there's maybe different levels that happen depending on where we are in the stages of our business and how that gets affected. I'll let you just kind of run with that, and then I'll jump in with any questions.
Sure, absolutely. So we're talking to service-based people, right? So they already know a lot of these things. I don't need to educate anybody on the fact that you need to consistently have an incoming source of leads, because at some point you're going to have attrition off your email list and people are going to leave. So you need to have more people coming in than you don't. And if you're a service-based business, then you're offering something that is in return for your time or in the return for the time of your team, depending on where you are, right? And so when we're looking at lead gen for a service-based business, it is about that consistency, because you do constantly need to have an influx of potential leads. What that means on the back end is if and you mentioned that I have a podcast and it's called Acquire. And if you do have a service-based business and you're trying to attract those leads, I've always said for the past 12 or 13 years that I've been doing this, that you should basically have the word consistency like tattooed right on your forehead. Because when you're not consistent and you have the ebb and flow, that's where things get really messed up. And I've done this. Like, I continue to make this mistake. I mean, 12 years later, and I still do this, Barb. I can't even believe it. But you have like a really good couple of months and the influx of clients is there and you're like, oh my God, okay, I got to stop marketing because I can't take on anybody else. But if you do that, then you're actually creating what's going to happen is like those clients that you currently have, the contracts run out or the job is done, and now you have to go find more. And that is stressful. So the best thing I ever did, and I try and do it, and again, I'm not 100% consistent, is I try and have a consistent influx of leads and potential clients. I'm constantly having conversations with people, and I'm constantly saying, yeah, I'd love to do that project with you. The next time I have open in my schedule is February or whatever. And I start booking people out. And that keeps things consistent coming in. It also allows me to continue to revamp my prices where needed, because there is a demand, right? And I don't have that feeling of, oh crap, if I don't get somebody in, I can't pay the rent, or I can't do the thing, or I can't, we can't get the car fixed or whatever. It's more like, okay, so I've got these 3 people, they all want to work with me. Great. So yeah, you know what? I feel confident about what I'm charging or increasing the price if needed, especially with inflation. I don't know how my groceries went up 78%, but they did. So yeah, Yeah, I have to look at it like that.
Yeah. So you touched on the part about like if they come in that you can schedule them. And
Mhm.
I think people do forget about that. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't ever have to be like right now. It can be, okay, well, if they really want to work with you, they will wait. So do you think that's maybe one of the options to get around because there is that idea of, oh, I'm going to get too many. What am I going to do? And then
It's a
trying
good
to
problem to
work
have.
around that. Yeah, exactly.
So I've hit that point a few times. And so for transparency, I started off as a virtual assistant. I worked on Fiverr. That was my first online job. Okay, making $4.33 for every gig.
Mm,
And then I went into being an OBM, an online business manager, and then a coach and so on and so forth. And I still do a lot of service based because it keeps me in the know, right? But I do have a team. So if I have a client that wants my help, instead of sometimes making them wait, I will look at the availability of the team that I have to see what we need to do,
mm,
right? So do I need to up the hours of one of the people on my team? Do I need to bring in a new person? And that can give people hives, but I will tell you right now, it is the gateway to growth.
mm,
Because if I had to do all of the jobs that my clients ask me to do at this particular moment, I couldn't fulfill them all.
mhm,
So I'm not an ads expert. I'm really good at online list building, lead gen, but I'm not an ads expert. So I have somebody who does that for me. And that allows me to extend my services because that can be enfolded, like enveloped into the strategy that I have. And so I think the advice is you need to future plan and you need to look at the almost like the ascension ladder of your business and also your team. If you don't have one, maybe you're looking at getting your first person or, you're adding a part-time designer. I literally started with a part-time designer and a part-time assistant, and that has grown to having a Facebook ads expert, a page, what do you call it? A lead generating page creator. I don't know what we would call him. He's amazing. The assistant. And I have another backup designer as well, and a couple other people that I can pull on when I need to, right? When the job allows. So I think we have to really work on the mindset as people who are service providers because we think client tells us and we do what the client says, no problem. But we don't look beyond the borders of what we can create. And I think we have to earlier rather than later. I wish I had. I waited too long.
mhm,
And I burnt out. And I think a lot of people probably listening to this do get to the burnout stage. And that again has that effect on your business where you have the ups and downs because you fulfill all the client work and then you're burnt out and then you need some time to recover. And then by then you're desperate for money.
mhm. Yep. So do you think that there is a difference in the type of lead gen, or let me actually re-ask it this way. I think a lot of service-based businesses refer on referrals
Mhm.
instead of maybe some more concrete ways of lead gen. What are your thoughts around that?
So I have a view on this that has three different prongs. Okay. So there is super passive, somewhat passive, and then non-passive. So very, positively engaging. So the super non-passive to me is just the basics. Sharing stories on my Instagram, sharing when I've got a podcast episode or I'm appearing on somebody's thing. Just generally stuff about how I feel about things or turning one of my Acquire podcast episodes into a blog post. Like just passively putting out content that builds up the SEO reserve or reservoir of content so that if somebody searches my name, you get me. Because if you go and search Jennie Wright, my exact name with my exact spelling, there's me and an actress
Mm,
from like the 70s. But because I've spent the time creating this reservoir of content, I'm right up there. I'm right at the top. That person comes second,
mm,
that actress. And she was a well known actress. So my name actually comes above that because I passively create a ton of content. So that's my passive thing. My semi non passive is I'm always spending anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes per day just commenting on social media, myself, not my team, me, on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook groups that I'm in, just being like, having an opinion. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Or, oh, you're struggling with this. This is how I would do that. Those ways get you in front of your ideal client because you just are like, and this plays into the referral piece, Barb, where if people see me in Facebook groups or people see the people that we're talking about just talking and supporting and answering questions, then I will get referrals from complete strangers, people I don't even know, saying, "Oh, yeah, I saw Jennie answer that in a Facebook group. I think she'd probably be a good person for you to talk to about X." And then I get the messages. And I love that. That means that there's conversations happening that I have nothing to do with and will never know about. And I'm okay with that because it's referring stuff to me. The non-passive approach for lead gen for service-based businesses is placing yourself in the seat of an expert. You are an expert in your field. You're the most amazing copywriter out there. You're the best ads expert. You're the most incredible designer, whatever that is. And you have a different approach than everybody else, right? So even though you could say there's thousands and thousands of copywriters, because there is, and we have ChatGPT, which people thought would completely annihilate the copywriting profession, but it hasn't. You approach your writing in a certain way. Therefore, you have a unique message to share. And so get on your little soapbox and talk about the fact that you think Oxford commas should live on forever, right? And so
Yeah.
get known for that. And so those are the kinds of things that I look at, like the super passive, the not so passive, and then showing yourself as an expert. And that can be with a lead magnet. And, that's we can have that conversation too, but having the right lead magnet and also more than one
Mhm.
is essential.
Yeah. Yeah, let's go into that actually, because I think that's the next step, right? Like, so if you are not going to refer on, or if you're not going to rely on referrals, or you're
Mhm.
looking for a way to get out of that as your main source,
Mhm.
the only next logical choice is lead gen or lead magnets, right?
Yes. And
Okay, great.
so my business, even 12 years, 13 years later, still relies on a lot of referral. And so I keep that as a really strong piece. And I recommend that you do have this lead gen piece. So, one of the best ways that I have found for service based businesses to get exposure is to be a speaker on a summit
Mm.
or to be a contributor on a bundle. It's incredibly easy to get on. When I started out doing summits back in 2012, you had to have a 5,000 person list to be on a summit, this, that, and the other, with all these rules. Now I've done about over 400 and some odd summits myself and hundreds of webinars and lots of bundles. But it's easy to get on now. And you don't have to worry about having a 5,000 person list. You can have 150 people on your list and use it to grow. You can grow your list by like 200% just being on a summit
Mm.
or a bundle, right? And the bundles that you can be on, you can find them everywhere. There's Facebook groups that help you find them. There's lots of people who have them listed. Don't pay anybody to find you bundles or summits. They're available everywhere.
Good comment.
And
Thank you.
oh, absolutely. And then be on those consistently. Now, don't overlap. Don't promote two things at once. Only promote one.
Okay.
But you can be on bundles consistently and summits consistently in your calendar. And that will pull in 50, 100, 200, 250 leads per event that you're on.
Okay.
The next problem becomes the nurturing piece, right? So you can pull them in with your lead magnet from a summit. You have to have a strong back end game to then convert them and push them to calls or whatever it is that you want. But that's probably one of the best ways that you can as a service-based provider.
I like it. So those are your top lead gen or lead
Mhm.
magnet. It's a different kind of lead magnet, right? The traditional one, I think, is just like a download or something that is not as group driven, maybe.
You still have to have one of those. Like if you go to my website, I still have one
Okay.
and it does get me leads. But the most leads I'm getting, and we can talk about quality of leads too, but the most leads that you'll get are from summits and bundles. But this is where you have to watch for the quality, right? So there's going to be a lot of tire kickers and a lot of people who are just trying to get access to your free product, your free something.
Mhm.
And you kind of have to just accept, right? It's really accept or reject, but you have to try and figure out a way to capture a percentage, right? So if you get 200 leads per event on your lead magnet, and you are, that somebody that sells a package of hours or whatever it is that you sell, then got to look at trying to close 5% of those. How are you going to close 5%? So start looking at the math of it, do your maths, and start working on a back end sort of program to pull them in. Is it booking a call? Is it inviting them to whatever, right? Because for everybody, it's going to be different. And have that plan in place. A lot of people don't. A lovely thing as well is to have a tripwire. that little minute purchase is it still works. And it is a great view into the kind of people who would potentially purchase from you. And it's a great way to get those wallets to open up on that first little thing for $9 or $19, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And then you can work them up through, the back end again, because they've self-selected into purchasing something from you. You can work them into the next thing.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So we also talked about, I want to step over a little bit because the things that you talked about now, is that good for any level of business, or is it better for like the beginner business or those who have been in business for a while? Is there like a different sort of approach depending on the years you've been in business?
Yes. And I never say no.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I think something that you and I talked about right before we hit record was that it doesn't matter how many years in business you've been, that you've had. You have the same problems, they just look a little bit different. So the economies of scale when you're reaching those different levels, right? So as always, our first goal as service-based providers is, I want to make enough just to cover whatever, rent, household expenses. And so we're looking at making, can I make 3K a month? Can I make 5K a month? So we're looking at that number. And then if we can make a double digit number per month, that's a different level. As soon as you hit 10K a month, that feels different. Like it feels like a completely different business. And then if you can hit the 25K a month or more, then that feels insane. It feels awesome. So when you're looking at these different levels, if you're just starting out, you should have a lead magnet. You don't necessarily have to have the whole kit and caboodle right away. I recommend trying to get on summits and having a really simple lead magnet. Please, whatever you do, don't do a 3-page PDF that looks like, you just did it on Word and hit save as PDF. Brand it, put a cover image, put a bio, put a call to action, make it look nice, put a table of contents, like that kind of stuff. Make it jazz it up a bit.
Show some effort.
Yeah, show some effort.
Yeah.
Exactly. But position yourself as an expert, right? So make sure your LinkedIn profile positions you as a speaker. Even if you're not a speaker, put it that you are a speaker. Create a speaker media kit. So before I was even speaking, I had a speaker media kit in my Google Drive. And I had a pretty link, which was jennywright.com/speaker or something like that, or media. And it would open up my entire media kit with all my pictures and stuff like that, and the different talks that I would give and blah, blah, blah. But having a simple lead magnet is essential. Doesn't matter the level. The only thing that changes over the levels of your business is the number of lead magnets and the potential of what audience you're playing into. Because when you're first starting out, you have to be completely niched in. You have to be laser focused on the one thing that you do. And as you grow your business, you're able to branch a little bit. Do not branch out early in the beginning because it's too much. You need to own that one space. I got known as the quote unquote queen of summits. Awesome. And then I started branching out into different things, different types of lead gen, right? I can easily say nobody has done as many summits as me. I've not met anybody yet has done as many summits as me, and that's cool. But now I do other things. I do operations. I do, I have like marketing and strategy and, I've done all those kinds of things. And I do event planning and this and that. So eventually you can branch out, but in the beginning you need to have that focus. So you have one lead magnet focused on that one thing. And as you branch, you can add more. So the only difference is that as you grow your business, you'll probably also want to host one of these events, host a summit, host a bundle, be part of that. And also you have to look at collaborations. Collaborations are very tricky. That's another conversation for sure. But collaborations can leapfrog you ahead because you're joining forces with somebody else who also wants to put in the same amount of effort and interest into what you want to accomplish. Just be really careful with those. They can be very beneficial or they can also be very detrimental depending on how they're done. So
Okay. Can you elaborate on that?
100%. Let's just say that you get into a collaboration with somebody who has a similar view on things with you, which is awesome. They have the same work ethic. Amazing. You guys can build something like a co-branded webinar, that leads to a co-branded course. You're joining forces with your medium-sized lists and your medium-sized social media presence, and you can get to more people, right? So you get more exposure and the two of you can split the profits. However, if you have a collaboration where you're coming in with all of that service-based knowledge, you know how to do everything because you're a tech wizard or you're amazing at what you do, and the person you're collaborating with has a bigger audience, and is more of a face on social media, the trade-off becomes wonky unless you talk about it. So now you, the service-based person, will just automatically be assumed that you're going to come in and do all the work because you are the tech person, or you can build the pages, or you can do whatever. And the other person who has a bit more presence is like, I'm already past that. I don't have to do that. Now, that's not everybody, but that has happened to me multiple times.
Okay.
And so the conversation has to be, what skills are you bringing to the table? What are you willing to do? What am I willing to do? Are we splitting this 50-50? And what do we do in case of an argument or a disagreement? And through the collaborations that I've done, the most profitable ones are, if it's not two hell yeses, then it's a hell no, right? So both of us have to completely agree or we're not doing it. And in addition, we have to make sure that the duties are split 50-50. So if that person's not tech savvy and I am, what are they going to do whilst I'm doing all the back end tech savviness stuff? In the past, it's been, I've literally launched a membership with somebody who I thought was going to pull their weight, and they never pulled their weight. I ended up pulling all the weight. This went on for 6 months because I thought, they'll come along, and I kept trying to bring them with me. This is many years ago, and I had to dissolve that, and it sucked. But it's my fault. I didn't have the conversation, and I didn't expect them to, and I didn't hold them to it. So it's on me.
Yeah, it's a learning moment. You don't know what you don't know at the time. So
Yeah, you don't. And you
now
learn.
now you got the example.
And I can tell the cautionary tale.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, okay, cool. There was one piece that I saw in another, I think it was in your Instagram bio, about hustle-free strategy. And was it to launches? But it was hustle-free. Now I can't remember the exact words.
Yeah. So hustle free. So not losing yourself in a launch. Launches are incredibly overwhelming. And the reason they get overwhelming is because you forget about time. So you set a launch date and you say, oh, it's 6 weeks from now or 9 weeks from now or whatever. And you're cruising, just doing what you're doing, and you're doing little things for your launch. And then all of a sudden the time crunch hits. You're like, I'm 3 weeks away. I should have started promoting yesterday. Crap. And now you start having the freak out, right? And then you start to hustle. So now you're pulling, you're doing your regular work day, and then you're doing 3 hours at night. You're missing movie time with your family, and, it's pizza night, right? Because you just don't have the time to do anything else, which is fine. Ebb and flow. We do that in our businesses. But if you do it every single time you do a launch, you're going to hate launching and you're going to get burnt out. So the hassle-free launch strategy is boring, but exciting and sexy at the same time, and completely doable. And the boring part is it's planning. Nobody likes to plan. Everybody likes the, oh my God, I gotta, rush. But if you plan it out and you say, okay, in order to, and this is how Jennie's brain works, in order to succeed at this down the line, this is 6 months from now, I need to do this, and this, right? So in order to sell my $10,000 package, I need to promote it for 3 weeks. I need to build my list ahead of time and engage with them. So what does that list build look like? I need to support my social media and start appearing on podcasts that will then support this launch later on. So if you plan it out, right? If you look at Amy Porterfield, right? Selling DCA, which is her course, her online, her big course that she does every single year. She's made millions off of it. If you look at her strategy, if you look at her podcast, 3 months before this thing launches, before it launches, every single podcast starts becoming about how to launch an online course, why an online course, and overcoming the problems and the objections that somebody would have to join her big program.
Sure.
So it's planned out. So if you want to have a hassle-free launch, you got to think of all the permutations of the things that you could potentially do. And don't think that you're going to get them all in the first time. You look at people like some of the clients I work with, or if you look at somebody like Amy Porterfield, all of these things have been thought of over time. Every time she launches, she added something new. One of my clients is Sean Quintero, Sean Q. He's awesome. Go look it up. He does an online challenge every single year. The first time he ran that challenge, and it was about 6 years ago, I think he made like $4,000 or $5,000. Okay. And every year he plans it out better. He plans out his launch better, so it's not overwhelming. He's got a little baby now, right? A little girl. I think she's maybe 2. And every year it gets better. So the last time he did it was $266,000 he made from it.
Mm.
because he's got the launch like down pat. He
Mhm.
knows when to start his emails. He knows when to start like promoting. He has a whole Facebook strategy he starts employing months ahead of time. He starts these different engagement strategies, and everything leads towards that end goal 6 months down the line.
Mhm.
And so, hassle free launching really is just planning and looking to make improvements and having no ego about what you can improve later on, and not looking at yourself thinking, "Oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do calls. I don't want to do videos." Like, I'm kind of the, pull up your big girl pants and do the thing and
Yeah.
stop making a big deal about it. I'm a little bit of a Gen Xer, so I'm like, just shut up and get it done.
We'd have to as
So
business owners, right? Like, that is
completely.
what we have to do, or hire it out, but still you have to do it or think about it and figure it out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I told you earlier, I'm not good at Facebook ads. I will never be good at Facebook ads, and I'm okay with that. I cannot figure that out, and I'm okay with not learning it at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
I will hire that out,
Yeah.
right? If I want to do a podcast series, I'll have somebody help me. If I want, I got into YouTube Shorts. I do not want to create YouTube Shorts,
Yeah.
but I know somebody who can,
Yeah.
right? And so just making sure that you're covering all of your bases and having the right people to support you is going to make it feel a lot less like crazy as well.
Mhm. Oh, that was so good. Okay, let's see. I don't think I have any other specific questions right now, but after talking all that and knowing who's listening to this, what is maybe something that is there something that we haven't touched on that you would like to speak about still?
Yeah, it's something that you'd be surprised that I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
And it has to do with mindset and self-improvement.
Okay. I love this topic. Let's go.
Right. So, one of the biggest struggles that I had, and a lot of people in this online space have it, is we have a lot of neurodivergent people in the online space because it fits the way neurodivergent people work and need to
Define that
work.
for
Neurodivergent, ADHD, autism, people, a little bit of the quote unquote the shine, whatever you want to call it, just being a little bit different in the way that you approach. Like 9 to 5 isn't going to work for you, attention deficit, whatever you want to say. And
Thank you.
so that's one piece. And then there's the piece of the people like me who came from corporate and come with a lot of baggage. Like, I left corporate a mess. I was corporately bullied. Okay. I had a traumatic surgery that caused me to have a lot of PTSD, that caused a lot of problems and a lot of depression. Right. So when I started my online career, I had to overcome all these things. And what I wish I had done, and what I recommend that people do, and this may not be your story, and that's okay, or you might identify with a few things I'm saying, is the self-work is super important. Work on your perception of self, work on your view of yourself, work on self-care. Do the things that you love. Like, we have these businesses so that we can take Friday off and, go pick apples for a nice apple crisp or something, whatever. But you do these things so you can spend that time. So I'm a big work hard, play hard person. And I think that plays into the online business a lot. And if I can say to people, read the books that help you overcome the problems that you might be having personally, read the books that help you with your business strategy, read the books about how to work on your finances. Notoriously, a lot of our online entrepreneurs are really crappy with money and never want to charge what we think we're worth, because our self-worth is rooted in so much dogma and so many perceptions that don't relate to us, either as women or as, just service-based providers are looked down upon. It's like we're the not the lowest of the low, but we're not seen at the level that I think we should be. We're the cogs and wheels that keep things going.
Mhm.
So the personal work is important, and that should never stop. Additionally, get out of your little box, your little office, whatever, the room with the laptop, and network. And that's more important than a lot of people think. So obviously during the pandemic, that was all online. Depending on your comfort level, get out. I make it like a point to network, to go to a couple events every single year, to meet new people, get out of the office, and just start meeting new potential leads. Though I get a lot of leads that way. I get a lot of people said, "Oh yeah, I met Jennie at an event last October," and I'll get a lead in like the next year in May,
Mm.
right? So there's a lot of self growth that I think has to happen, and also a lot of forgiveness. We don't forgive ourselves enough. We don't give ourselves enough of pat on the back. We also don't say, you know what, today's just not the day for me, but I'm going to make a point that tomorrow's the day, or I'm going to give myself an hour to regroup, you know, and then refocus and get back to it. So there has to be a lot of, in my opinion, there has to be a lot of understanding and self-knowledge and self-worth that we build, but also understanding how you work. Not everybody can do 9 to 5. I do these I get this surge of like creative energy at night, and I love working Saturday mornings. It's quiet.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to call me. I'm not on calls because I like the weekend, right?
Yeah.
And so on Saturday morning, I can be ultra creative and get a lot of stuff done.
Yeah.
And I just power through, like 2 hours goes by in a heartbeat and I've accomplished so much.
Yeah.
But not everybody's like that, right? So you got to figure out your style. Oh, and list build early and often, all the time.
There you go. I love that. All right. So what is if somebody was listening to this, what do you hope the one takeaway that they walk away with?
Consistency and list building always and often. So constantly keeping the feelers out, constantly creating connections, constantly connecting with people and asking how you can support. The biggest takeaway would be that, with a slight caveat of saying, if you're going to do this anyways because you're service-based people, but I always approach people and say, is there anything else I can do to help and support you today? And I just sit and listen, because that is a great way to make connections and have people go, oh yeah, I didn't think I could, but I actually do need you to help me maybe with this, or connect people, right? So lead gen early, often, and consistency.
Fantastic. All right. So if somebody wants to learn more about lead gen and list building and the things that you talked about today, how's the best way they can get in touch with you?
The best way is, first of all, I want you to go and just find me online and learn a little bit more if you want to. So you can go to JennieWright.com, and it's Jennie with an IE. It's not Jeannie, it's Jennie. And go and check that out. And because I've got resources there, I've got a link to the podcast there, and I've got ways you can connect with me. That's like the super easy one. If you prefer to actually talk to me, then send me a DM on LinkedIn or Instagram. And that's probably the best way, just to start a conversation and say hi and, ask a question. Then I'll make sure either to refer you or support you, whichever one you need.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for your time, Jennie. This was like amazing information. So I'm sure not just the one takeaway, people will go away with a lot of stuff. So thank you very much.
I hope so. And thank you so much, Barb. I really appreciate the opportunity and to get to chat with you and to share. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And that wraps up this episode. Stay tuned for more episodes to help your business thrive online. We'll see you in the next sweet spot. Cheers.
Thank you for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're looking for SEO and content marketing help, you can find all kinds of information at compassdigitalstrategies.com. And if you like the episode, please tell a friend. Cheers.